Okay, so this is the Panther video for gluing down the template. You can see I've got the cereal box well sanded here, and I'm going to glue everything to the glossy side. I've got some 2-to-1 glue, so it's 2 glue, 1 water. It's the wateriest I use. And just a small ruler here to smooth stuff down as I glue it on, and a rag to remove glue afterwards. So I've already cut the template into a bunch of sections here that are about the right size, about the size of the hull here. So I'm going to glue both turrets down because it's about the same size. Try to keep the pieces fairly large, they're easier to handle, but don't try to glue the whole page down because you'll definitely not be able to do that successfully. So just take a little bit of glue here and sort of estimate with your piece how much you need to cover. And then put down a thin layer of glue. But you want to get it even with good coverage. So even though it's thin, it's important that it's watery because you can work it into all the areas, because you definitely want all the bits of the template to get glued down. Just put a little bit down like that. And then lay your template on one edge. Then use the ruler to follow it as you put it down. And you get a bunch of glue on the edges and at the bottom and on your ruler that you want to wipe away quickly. And then use your ruler again. Try to find any inconsistencies in how it's been glued down. Now careful, you don't want your ruler to be wet at all when you're doing that, or else you will smudge the template, especially if it's been printed recently. So the next piece just continues. Now I'll just show this a couple of times, and then I'll show the difference. There's a few pieces that you don't glue to the cereal box. One is the gun part, doesn't actually need to be glued down. You can, it doesn't hurt anything, but it doesn't need to be. The actual gun part doesn't need to be glued down, but it's really close to the hull anyway, so it doesn't really matter one way or the other. I end up just gluing it down usually anyways. And then depending on which version of the Panther you're doing, there's slightly different operations. So just remove the excess glue with the rag, and then make sure we're flat everywhere. And this also makes sure that the paper is nicely glued down everywhere, because when you cut the individual parts out, you want to make sure nothing peels up. So with the Panther option A, the track covers are glued onto index card paper. And on both versions, the front hatches and these circles that go on the rear are glued to index card paper. But on the Panther option B, the longer tracks and they slightly overhang the front of the hull, these track covers are glued to the cereal box. So that's the only difference in this part of the phase. And you don't have to sand index card paper when you glue down to it. So it's basically exactly the same as what you just did with the cereal box. It's just on a slightly thinner gauge of material, so you don't want them coming out as far. And you will see that the index card paper warps a bit when you glue to it. It's not a big deal. You can flatten the stuff out before you use it. So I'll just finish this. So I'm going to do an option A and an option B. So I've got one set to glue to the cereal box of track covers and one set to glue to index card paper. You can see I sort of tore the template there a little bit because it's kind of a bit wet with glue. You want to be careful, but it's not irreparable. So if that happens to you, it's not a big deal. You can still use it. Make sure all the glue's off the edges. And obviously, once you know and can see what you're doing, just continue. You don't have to watch this whole video. There's really nothing else interesting I'll show you, although it is important sometimes to select the correct cardboard cereal box. So you may want to test fold a few before you actually decide on one. So use a utility knife to slice and fold some and see which ones sort of hold together the best and fold easily with sharp lines, which is really the most important thing. So there's some cereal boxes that the cardboard is very hard, and it's really difficult to get nice straight folds with that. So you try to avoid. It's usually a darker red or brown in color than most of the other cereal boxes. You see this one's quite light. The other ones are a bit redder than this. This is a good material here. Now, that doesn't mean that all Cheerios cereal boxes are the same. I think with the family size boxes it's slightly different, or maybe vice versa. It's not reliable even within the same brand of cereal. There'll be various thicknesses of box, so just try to go from experience and test each one before you use it is a good idea. So here there's a Panther B and the turret necks, which the turret necks always get glued to the cereal box. Or the Panther option B. It's not actually. All of the models of Panther were built with both the shot protector and the extended track covers. So it's not correct to call either one like a certain, like the D or G or A. So that's why it's option A and B rather than a specific model of Panther. Okay, so that is 2 of everything glued down. Again, you don't have to glue down the gun. And these front hatches, regardless of which A or B that you're gluing on, get glued down to index card paper.